Queen Anne Cannon at the House of Sankofa, who is being ran by the international minister, Barry Houston. So we're here with the privilege of talking about the House of Sankofa, its origin, and how it has started, any future things that's going on with the House of Sankofa. So welcome. I'm so glad you're here because I've been trying to interview you for so long. So today was the day to do it.
Yeah, today let's do it.
Yeah. So welcome. And so first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, as a person growing up and educating yourself and defining who you are and what you want to do.
Yes. I was born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee. From there, I went to Nashville, Tennessee, to Fisk University.
Oh, Fisk University.
Now, this is where, if you're going to say, I was conscious about being an African man in America. That is where that would begin with my experience there.
So it says, I want to know who I am in this country and where do we come from. Those sparked at Fisk University.
Yes.
And led you on this journey.
Well, you know, it's so many people that crossed my path and made that possible. For one, I had a college professor by the name of Tokes Abadele. He was one of the influences of me joining what is called the All-African People Revolutionary Party. And from there, I would meet people like Kwame Ture, who was formerly known as Stokely Carmaker.
Oh yeah.
And you know, this whole thing about reading books that I never thought I would ever read, to get more acquainted with African people and their role in the world as far as being the founders of civilization, the founders of religion, and all of these. It was once I got bitten by the bug, so to speak. There was no stopping.
It just led you on this life journey that you're still on.
As I say, Kwame Ture. Then there was a bookstore there at Fisk on Jefferson Street. The proprietors of that shop introduced me to the world-renowned historian, Dr. Yusuf Ben Yakana. And, you know, once I met him, I also met John Henry Clark as well.
Was J.A. Rogers part of that?
J.A. Rogers was, you know, Fisk has the largest black collections library in the United States. And I would, once I met Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, they threw out names to me like Joel A. Rogers. So I would, you know, when I see him in our own Black Studies collection, of course I'm gonna want to look at him. And so I started studying, you know, Joel A. Rogers, you name him. The Life and Times of Marcus Garvey, Paul Robeson, you name him. And I started getting like an intimate relationship, because as a member of the AAPRP, we were required to do continual reading. They call it a study circle, and you had to do your readings for the circle. So that helped me to.
So now we can come up to date. This is a national organization of which you're the head of. So tell us a little bit about the organization of House of Sankofa.
Well,
I don't know what the organization. I said organization. It could be.
Organization is correct. Well, we thought that we should have.
Go ahead.
With individually all the books that I was reading.
You're on camera.
All the books that I was reading it was always inside of me to share those spiritual concepts with our people collectively. And so this is where the idea for the House of Sankofa, this is where it came from. To put together a spiritual house for us.
For people to gather and continue their,
and continue their
journey.
their spiritual journey. And we knew, now I want to make it very clear, we're not against our brothers and sisters in the church as you know it.
like Methodist, Baptist.
Methodist, even Muslim. And,
okay.
But we figured that we have a history as black people before we get into these religions. Now, what is that history? And we try to unfold that information for us collectively. You see, because see, a lot of the majority of us black people here in America are Christian and or Muslim. But
So
we
now
have a history before that.
Do you use the Bible as we know it?
We use the Bible, we use the Torah, we use the Quran.
The Quran?
Yes,
Okay.
and we extract information from all of these books simply because, see, this is what African people produce, these religions. And so we feel at home that we can pour from either one of these religions and not miss a beat.
Okay.
And that is our level of understanding.
So the overall purpose would be to be the fullest human being or fullest practice of...
To be the very best human being you can be. Exactly. But we have us in all of these traditions, if you will.
Okay.
We have black people in America that are Jews. We have black people in America that are Christian. We have black people in America that are Muslim. But all of us, what were we before we came part of those traditions?
That's what I find so fascinating.
Yeah.
So me being raised in America, American Baptist, so being part of the House of Sankofa will only widen my, expand my thoughts on religion or my spirituality, something like that.
And the thing that we teach as far as our the unifying concept that we say in the 21st century is for us as black people to reintroduce ourselves, rehumanize ourselves to ourselves.
Yeah, I like that. So we've been in existence. How long have the House of Sankofa been in existence?
It's been over 12 years.
Oh, is that long?
Yes,
Oh,
it's been
okay.
that long. You see, when we first started, we were meeting in the homes of the different practitioners. And then, as far as meeting in the individual homes, it got a little bit too crowded to do it in the home, so we came here to the center.
So now that it's growing, because it's
growing,
been 12 years, so of course it's growing. So where do you think that where it's going to be in the next 5 years? Like, what are your plans and what are your hopes for it, how to expand it?
Well, I'll tell you, it was a recent conversation we had that was said to me, well, Minister Houston, you cannot convert all black people for the House of Sankofa. Well, that's not our goal. See, one thing, we don't proselytize in the House of Sankofa. We live the spiritual principles of Ma'at, and we hope and pray that our people see that. And we act on the spiritual principle that the universe itself is mental. And if that be true, all we have to do is live or attempt to live an upright and righteous life. And that would do all the promotion that we need.
Since it's a national organization, where are the other House of Sankofas located?
Well, we have Memphis, we have Nashville, we have Overland Park, Kansas.
Wow.
In the old days, Manhattan, New York, Dayton, Ohio, and those areas. We had 7 houses to start with.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is there like a national conference that you guys have that's
We-
held to keep everybody in the same conversation?
To keep it in the same, and what we originally was doing was every Sunday, every house would do the same. We don't call them sermons, we call them lesson studies.
Oh,
And that way, it was easier to
okay, so they're
you know,
literally the
have phone
same
calls and
conversation, so you can,
and yeah, and work out the what we call lesson studies, not sermons. Yeah.
okay, that's awesome. So how, are you satisfied with the progress of where it's going and the kind of,
Well-
progress that's being made, or?
Whether the great African Frederick Douglass tells us that without struggle there is no progress, and we act on that. That's a spiritual principle for us as black people.
Yeah,
So we have to struggle to put in place our vision of how we want to see the world. And the symbol of the Sankofa, right here, here it is right here. The Sankofa bird is with its head turned backwards. And that just a collective teaching for us as black people to look back, never forget where you come from.
Okay.
Look back and reach back and pick up the wisdom that has already been put in place for us
as you're moving forward.
as we're moving forward.
Yeah. So what's the future you see for
Well, we work for as the brother was saying here earlier, we have to work for a liberated and free, united, and socialist Africa. We have to work for that because that's our salvation, and we know this.
Yeah.
One of the things that confuses us here in America is this thing about terms. Because everybody don't understand the terms that we're saying, this is why we meet every Sunday to clarify those terms, but we clarify through the books we read.
Okay.
And these are from our ancestors.
And I know that you've read a lot of books.
Yes.
So do you have you read a book a week or a book a day or?
Let's say I originally told you my experience there at Fisk University. That is where I started with two books on a minimum and 4 books on a maximum a week.
A week.
And I've been into that habit of when I start reading, I'm reading at least 2 books per week. So I read more than 1 book at one time, you see, because we know that scientifically that helps the brain to remember when you change up, that is a technique that I've learned way back. They used to have this thing called speed reading.
Speed reading, yeah.
Speed learning.
You read from you look at the middle, and you go.
That technique is there, you see.
Okay.
And it helps your brain.
Your brain,
computer.
yeah, because your eyes can see more than
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Wow, so that gives me some challenges to listen to.
Yeah.
So would you recommend people start reading more than one? Maybe a book a month would be good, right?
A book a year. See, because reading, we say in the House of Sankofa, a reading people is a rising people.
Ah, okay, good. Yeah, I can see
You
that.
see, so we need to read more than we look at TV here in America. See, because you know, if just say if we, you ask me what we're doing in the future. Now, if we demonstrate that to our young kids, to our youth, I think that we would have less. Yeah, we'll have less mental problems that we having now. We know that to be the case, and you know, they tell us that reading more is next to being akin to the Most High than anything on this plane of existence.
Oh my goodness. I say that because I think about all the times I turn the TV on just to have noise on.
Yeah, well, we've been, a lot of us, all of us are guilty of that because we're here. But how do you fight against that?
Yeah.
We just be honest. You see, because the thing that we say here every Sunday in the house of Sankofa, we try to impress it on our brain. Seek truth, number one. And then when you find the truth, what are you going to do with the truth you find?
Pass it on.
You have to produce justice, number one, and you have to produce correctness, number two, with the truth you find. And if you did that, you know, not only will you be a better human being, but the world will be a better place. And we don't believe this, we know this to be the case.
It's better than belief. It's more than belief. It's deeper than belief. Okay. So I am so happy that we had this time together because it's been a struggle, and but as you say, you know, nothing worth caring for is without a struggle. So
absolutely,
the struggle's been worth it. So I don't mind.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, Dr. King told us we may not live, we may not live to see 1/10 of the things that we know that's important in this life. 1/10. We might not live long enough to see that. But the liberation is in the doing. So we have to be obedient to that and try to create from the bridge that our ancestors have given us.
Yeah, that's one thing I see, that in the end of it all, that whatever time the end is, you can look back and say, I did my best.
Yeah.
I added to the...
It's all in the effort. It's all in the effort. And like what we say, seeking truth, producing justice and correctness with the truth you find. Even newborn babies are bound by that. You see, so nobody is free outside of that equation. You are absolutely put here to seek truth and to produce justice and correctness with the truth you find. And the other thing is that there is no such thing as a statute of limitations on the application of truth.
Wow.
So in every generation that we come and we find ourselves in, we are absolutely bound by seeking truth and producing justice and correctness with you.
Well, I am so honored you took this time out to talk with me, and I appreciate it and I value it immensely. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Likewise.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, you're gonna cut that off. Okay, now our next guest is Akabudu. Did I pronounce it right?
That's
Oh,
fine.
good. I did it right, you guys. And we're going to talk about the African Liberation Day because you're one of the coordinators of it. So could you tell us a little bit about its history first?
Okay. So African Liberation Day will be 61 years this year.
Oh, wow.
It first started in 1958 in Accra, Ghana, when President Kwame Nkrumah, who was the first president of Ghana in West Africa. One of the first things he did was to invite all the other independent African states at that time, and there were only 7 of them at that time. And during that conference of independent African states, they proclaimed Africa Freedom Day, and that was April 15th at that time. Later, when Nkrumah spearheaded the founding of the Organization of African Unity, they changed the name to African Liberation Day, and they switched the date to May 25th. So May 25th globally is African Liberation Day. We like
And is
to
it
call it our
celebrated
day.
like everywhere?
It's celebrated throughout in parts of Europe, the Caribbean,
Wow.
throughout many countries in Africa. The African Union still has some manifestations, although politically they call it Africa Day. We still maintain that Africa is not liberated, so it's African Liberation Day.
Oh, okay.
So it goes by some variations in its name and people's understanding of its history. But
So-
it is 61 years this year.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, it's
Anything
really
that
cool.
lasts over 10 years,
You know,
it's-
really.
somebody's interested,
Yes,
right?
that's right.
So African Liberation Day is going to be May the 15th, Saturday,
May 25th.
May the
Yes,
25th.
Yes, right.
And where it's going to be held?
Well, the one here in California will be in Oakland, and it's at the Tasafaranga Center at 975 85th Avenue in Oakland.
Is it costly? Does people?
No,
get
it's free.
It's a
It
free
starts at
event?
noon, goes to about 5 o'clock. It's the history, I should add, in part of African Liberation Day is not just a celebration, but it's also an opportunity to commemorate and to bring together what has happened this year with African people.
Oh, okay.
So it's both food for the spirit and the mind in that sense.
So there's educational, like seminars and
Workshop speakers. This one
Oh,
will not
good.
have, because they're doing it in one day. Some are 2 days, but this particular one is one day. So it'll have speakers, not so much workshops. The speakers and what we like to call edutainment. Instead of entertainment, we
Oh,
say
okay.
edutainment.
So that means like educating.
That means
the-
people who are performing artists will still feed your mind and your body.
Oh, okay,
They're not
wonderful.
just there
So
to
a
have
new
you
way
pat
to-
your foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this year is featuring Mr. Fab, who is one of Oakland's, he's a rapper that grew up in Oakland, and he's pretty politically conscious, so we're glad to have him there. We have speakers from various organizations, the American Indian Movement West, the Arab Resource Organizing Committee, which is really the voice of the Palestinians. We bring the Irish Republicans out,
Oh,
the Irish
my.
Republican Socialist Network. We bring the Haiti Action Committee. And so, and of course, in previous years, we've had the Venezuelan Council General.
Wow, it's pretty big.
Yeah, it's global. If you go to our website, AfricanLiberationDay.net, one word, AfricanLiberationDay.net, you'll see the many African Liberation Days throughout the world. In
my
fact,
goodness.
this year, my wife and I, we're actually going to be at the one in Toronto.
Really?
Because of just going to support there. And
Now I see everyone's wearing white. Is that does that
That's a
mean
historic
something?
significance to wear white as a ceremonial color, as a coming together of people. Again, recognizing our relationship to Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana. He's deceased now, but one of the things that they did was to wear white to important events.
Oh, okay.
The same in Guinea
It's like a
Conakry.
spiritual cleansing.
Spiritual focus, and also when you just look around, everybody's looking the same. It really bears you
I
a
looked
sense
at
of
this
unity.
picture. It looks
You know,
striking. Yeah.
we used to do and we still do in some places where gangs are a real issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the gangs would come out in all white. They'd leave their colors behind because they knew this was
Wow.
a day to come. They didn't need their reds
To
and
unify.
their blues and their purples. They came and they said, yeah, today we're about our people and being African and not just, our particular turf.
So someone like myself who's never been before, they really feel welcome and be able
Right.
to get into, yeah.
Oh, definitely. And the edutainment, as we call it.
Entertainment.
Like education.
Oh, yeah.
instead of entertainment. But this year, as historically, we've had Sister Kuji Jakalia and Val Sarant, and I mean, she goes as a griot, and just the range of her knowledge is just really amazing, and his interweaving the cultural, creativity that they have. When you got the drum and you got somebody who's speaking the truth, it just really sticks. And I think really, and I always tell folks, I think the artists are going to go further even than the speakers or the leaders, because the artists, they hit people in a certain way with their creativity.
Well, I'm interested in going, so I recommend anybody else who's interested in being educated
Exactly.
in an area where they haven't been before, or to widen their education in terms of African American in the
It's
country,
broad.
plus
Yeah.
a wider range of who we are as Black people in America and African Americans on the planet, right?
Africans
Everywhere.
every part of the world.
Yeah.
I've even heard of it being
I
held
think
in
I will
Russia.
come. One
Yeah.
human socialist Africa. Yeah.
Yeah, so this year's
So-
theme, let me just reflect that too. Our
Okay.
theme this year, and every year we try to have a meaningful theme, is revolutionary Pan-Africanism calls us to unite and forge a definitive struggle against neocolonialism, forward to one unified socialist Africa.
Woo.
Right? Long, a lot of words
That is a
there,
lot,
but
saying a lot.
the essence of it means that we need our land back. And
You need
that
our land back.
we need Africa to be free from those who are basically pimping it for its
suppressed it
resources. I mean, we always say
Given.
African people come from the richest land in the world, but we're
And
some of
it's
the
so
poorest
true.
people.
Yeah.
And that's because of what we see in this theme, talking about unity and talking about freeing up the land from those who don't have Africa or African people's interest at their heart. So,
Well, I just want to thank you for seeing something that to bring to the rest of us.
Well, thank you.
And making it happen and inviting more people and keeping it going and furthering it because we all need this.
Right.
So I think that's a commitment that it has to be a passion with you.
oh
You know,
yeah, I mean
yeah.
the work, there's again so many ways that we have to get where we're going,
Yeah.
and this is just one. And as an institution, we want it to become an institution,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
that it in every part of the world, there is an African Liberation Day, May 25th. Africans know, hey, it's time for us to, if no other time in the year have I looked to see what is happening with Africa and African people, African Liberation Day is the time that I'm going to take that time to do that.
Well, I'm glad because I hadn't heard of it. And I've been here a long time.
Yeah, we try to
So
keep our
thank you
history
for that.
secret.
Yeah,
Thank you.
So
All right.
I am gonna go.
All right.
So I
We will see
probably
you
won't
there.
see you there because you're gonna be somewhere else.
Yeah, but a lot
I'll
of
see a
folks
lot
here
of
will be
people,
there.
but
That's
it'll
right.
still make me proud to be there. So
Well, thank
you.
you. Thank
Okay.
you. All right.
So if you're interested, put it on your calendar. Make sure you make this happen. It'll
Yes,
give
indeed.
you food for the rest of your life.
That's right.
Okay.